Know about the protest on the 17th, and I'm on a lot of mailing lists, so that's curious to me. But I heard about it right afterwards, how the cops had pushed the protesters basically into Zuccotti Park, and that they just decided to stay. So I went right down. And my first instinct was just to be like, what do you guys need? Because I wasn't ready, you know. I'm like 44. I live in Greenpoint. I'm not ready to take my sleeping bag over to Zuccotti Park just yet. So the first week, I was going down there every day. I was participating in the General Assembly every day and trying, fighting my own cynicism, because a lot of myself included, pretty much thought it was, let's try anyway, Well, the most obvious difference, group-based, right? I mean, participatory democracy is the jargon that people are using. And the biggest difference is, which I've just been waiting for so long, is that people are down there just representing themselves. I don't speak for the group, and I don't speak for anybody else, which is not the way New York politics normally works at all, right? It's like very hierarchical organizations, the nonprofits, even the most radical nonprofits, they've got constraints. And this is very different from that. But in the beginning, it was really scary. Like, God, I really didn't want it to fizzle out. So that is why I went to the Brooklyn Bridge and got arrested. And I was really just at the front, where people started going out into the roadway. And I just by sheer coincidence happened to be at the juncture between going up the walkway or the roadway from Brooklyn. And the police were the police were standing there. And then we were standing there. And then some people were yelling, take the bridge. And the police kind of turned around and started walking onto the bridge. So they were clearly leading us onto the bridge. And it was really obvious that it was entrapment because I knew, I feel really bad for the people who didn't know, but I personally knew that there was no way the cops, okay, I keep wanting to say Giuliani, that Bloomberg was going to let the cops let us march all the way to Brooklyn. I mean, that is just an absurd scenario. I just decided, the Brooklyn Bridge is this big monument. Everybody across the country is going to know what the Brooklyn Bridge is. And I didn't want to get arrested. Like I promised my partner, I wasn't going to get arrested from the beginning. The second I went down to Wall Street, I've been doing this forever. But the energy at that moment, and the people started saying, let's take the bridge. And then people started singing and dancing, that chant, that goes just, go up, go down, there's a revolution in this town. And we literally just started dancing out onto the bridge. And it was impossible not to do it, And it was like, okay, maybe this is going to get the media's attention, because at that point there really hadn't been anything except I think it was the Daily News that had that, that cover of that woman's cleavage, the police holding that woman down, that unfortunate photo. So anyways, we went onto the bridge and I just accepted it. I was like, okay, we're going to get arrested. And I hope it's worth it. And, it was. And there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of tension. We were trapped. There wasn't any running away. I mean, there were people scaling up and there were police boats down below. And then one of the organizers said, it would be a good idea if everybody sat down and locked arms, which is really good because that's the best thing you can do in a situation like that because, it's a sign of civil disobedience, but at the same time, it's a sign of nonviolence, I mean, I didn't like getting carted away and I didn't ending the night in jail, but, I was with and I was the oldest person in my group. There were a lot of 18, 19-year-olds who were really scared. And I tried to help. There were a couple of women there who were really freaking out because their handcuffs were too tight, that kind of thing. And then we were just trying to get people's mind off things by just talking about other things, and once we were in the cells, we had a lot of political discussions, which helped. I mean, The ideas seem to break down into two pieces. One is which our democracy is failing, and the other is which our economy is failing. And so my hopes and dreams for what a different world are not about reforming the current system. At the beginning, there was this argument about whether people were going to create demands or not, and I was one of the people who was on the side of no demands. And I know the movement is heavily criticized for no demands, but too bad, you know? I mean, because it is just too complicated for that right now. And if we, in the beginning a couple of weeks ago, if we had created a set of demands, that would have been the focus, rather than people's empowerment. And you know, the scary thing for me right now is that it's still just a healthy rebellion. And there's not enough. There's not enough to counter what would happen if our financial institutions were like to really collapse. You know, there's this demand like end Wall Street, and I mean, to me that is ridiculous. Like, our financial system is necessary. The banking and the financial industry is necessary to make capitalism work. I mean, the fact they ran off with all the money is obviously not a good idea, and it's horrible, and we're all protesting. But just to say, for example, you know, well, end Wall Street, but because that's expressing what people who don't have anything, you know, people who are saying, they're expressing the anger of what the financial industry has done. So I can't, you know, I'm not against people saying that. I just sort of smile and say, well, you know, I can understand why you feel that way. But, you know, as opposed to my friends who post things on Facebook and say, oh, look at the stupid sign, you know. I mean, that's useless. Go down there and make a better sign. So my first day, when I was asking what everybody needed, one of the strongest things that people said they needed was a solar panel. So I immediately tweeted it, put it on Facebook. Hey, can anybody donate a solar panel? And on Sunday, there was a truck there with 20 solar panels. Nobody taking any credit for it. And that that just made me so happy, you know? Because that is what we need. We need everybody on board. Not trying to take the media attention, not trying to own it in some way. That's going to be the real thing. It's like, how does a leaderless movement, how do people share power, you know? And so far, in my opinion, so far so good.